Is it possible to cross the sea bottom on a camel's back? How to find shark teeth on a small riverbank? What by Jibek B did to unite Kazakh people? What is the difference between small and great Karatau? Why Kazakh Lake was included into the list of key ornithological sites? Who are the 5 great mothers? How the legendary Babatuk tea won the winged Peri's heart? What kind of fish live in the rivers and lakes of Karatau? How to cross a snow-covered pass? What is Joly Valley famous for? The participants of the Outdoor KZ 2017 TV expedition decided to find answers to these and some other questions. The nature of Kazakhstan is rich and diverse. For centuries, its mountains, steppes, deserts and woods have been the best friend of those who loved and appreciated their native land. They gave people food, roof and shelter. As time goes by, the tenor of our life is changing, but the nature still generously shares its wealth with us. These days, Kazakhstan's landscapes and biological diversity attract numerous tourists and fans of active leisure. Together with the Outdoor KZ permanent TV expedition, you will visit most beautiful corners of Kazakhstan and learn how expert travelers survive in the wild. The Outdoor KZ 2017 expedition has at last started. It took us a long time to get ready due to difficulties arranging time and route. We had to change the ground plan several times, but eventually all doubts are gone and we're on the road. The plan was to start the expedition by visiting Shu district of Jambul region, Jaisan sanctuary and the ancient settlement of Balagasun on the Aksu river, but the weather conditions are forcing us to go to Jolinsk district of the same Jambul region.
Когда составляешь план экспедиции, сидя у компьютера, уютно в кресле,
Planning an expedition in front of a computer, everything seems to be plain and clear, but when it goes real, you realize that it is not as easy as it looked initially. Let's consider the navigation system, for example. It appears our brand new GPS navigator has outdated maps. Many new roads were built in Kazakhstan in recent years, but you won't find them in old maps. The weather is the second most demanding challenge.
Построено много новых автомобильных дорог, и я рекомендую путешественникам заранее проверять, обновлены ли карты в их навигаторе или нет. Вторая проблема – это погода.
Due to the fact that our main aim is outdoor shooting, we are weather dependent. One cannot change it, and sometimes it takes several days of mere waiting, which breaks the expedition timeline. The third issue is that filming in special protected areas has to be coordinated with not only such zones management, but also with special authorities. And if you encounter any unexpected changes and it causes delay, it is really hard to reschedule and rearrange the whole mission. Nevertheless, we have the strongest intention to visit all 14 regions of Kazakhstan and check out the most interesting landscape, cultural and historical tourist attractions. A whole life would not be enough to cover all the interesting places, but we will do our best to see as many of them as we can. The expedition starts from the southern capital of Kazakhstan early morning. The weather doesn't make it any easier with the drizzling rain before noon, followed by the snow that came in the afternoon. It was raining in Almaty, but here it is already snowing. I hope that after crossing the Kurdai Pass, the weather will be nicer. We are now approaching the border between Almaty and Jambul regions.
Сейчас на участке трассы
We witness an environmental campaign taking place on the road segment between Merke and Chu. Children are collecting litter along the highway. This being said, it is snowing, and it is not less than heroism to do it in such a weather. Way to go! The goal of the expedition is to hit each of 14 regions of Kazakhstan and get good videos of tourist attractions. Although a lot of information is available online, perfect time and human management is necessary to organize an exciting and not tiresome journey with multiple locations. It is also necessary to have good coordination with local tourist operators. During the Soviet time, there were state camping sites operating across the country. They were not business-oriented in the modern sense of the word. Today, local residents willing to professionally engage in tourist business have to master a lot of innovations and in many cases start from scratch. The profession of tour operator is not a bad choice for residents of remote areas. The wealth and diversity of tourist resources of Jambul region make this occupation very much promising. More than 5 million people around the world work in tourism industry. The contribution of the branch to global GDP amounts to 9%. Moreover, 6% of global exports are this way or another related to tourist services. According to the World Tourist Organization, by 2030, the number of international tourists will reach 2 billion annually. There is no doubt that some of them will come to see our country, and of course, we will do our best to be ready for it. 60 kilometers away from the city of Taraz, opposite to Baojan Mamoushuli District Administrative Center, the route of our expedition turns towards the village of Yertai. The expedition's new participant, Malik Nukuzbekov, joins us. He is a well-known expert of Zhualinsk Valley fauna. Malik is a farmer, but for many years already has been spending his free time studying the birds of Karatau and Zhualinsk Valley. His photo works are famous far beyond the borders of Kazakhstan and were published in specialized websites and magazines. Many foreign tourists, especially bird watchers, ask Malik to show them the secret corners of Karatau and Zhualinsk Valley. During the last couple of years, bird watching has become a popular kind of tourism. Hundreds of bird lovers come to Kazakhstan to observe endemic ornithofauna species. And of course, they cannot help coming to Zhualinsk Valley, serving a pit stop for more than 250 avian species. The village of Yertai lies in the middle of a wide valley between the ridges of Boral Dai Tau and Small Karatau. It is hard to find a place more suitable for observing birds. Numerous species of migratory birds fly over and rest in this gorgeous place on the border of steppe and mountain landscapes. The Karatau Ridge is a spur of the western Tian Shan mountain system. It stretches for 420 kilometers from Talas Alatau to the Sirdarya River. Gradually degrading from the east, it elongates into Sirasuchu Valley. Geographers divide the ridge into two parts, east or Small Karatau and southwest or Great Karatau. Although the border between the two parts is not usually marked on topographic maps, local residents would tell you that the Great and Small Karatau are divided by the river Aristandi. Having spent the night at Malik's place in the village of Yertai, the expedition goes deeper into the massif of Small Karatau early in the morning. All night long, a storm had been raging in the mountains, and by morning, Joalynsk Valley was completely wrapped in a snow-white blanket. After a couple of hours, though, the bright spring sun brought back the usual green color to the surrounding highlands. Only the northeastern peaks of the main ridge retained their white caps. The members of the expedition cannot spend too much time discovering the ornithofauna of Joalynsk Valley, but in order to catch the inexpressible charm of these edges, they cannot resist the temptation and step out of their vehicles to spend at least a couple of hours walking the hills. At first sight, the nature of the Karatau foothills seems to be slow and boring. In reality, it is humming with myriads of creatures, large and small. Here's a grey partridge female who wants to take us away from the nest. Grey partridges are real patriots of Joalynsk Valley. Rather than flying overseas, they prefer to endure winter staying home. They spend their whole lives in the same place they were born and are ready to die to save their nestlings. Jackdaws like to make their nests in holes in steep slopes. A roadside puddle makes a teal the happiest bird on earth. It just needs some rest before a long journey, which quite possibly will be several thousand kilometers long. The road goes up to the mountain ranges and then trickles down into broad valleys, crosses small mountain rivers and snakes through perfectly flat steppe. Certain areas of the Karatau northern slope still have snowdrifts, and therefore we have to look for suitable detours. In the Kosh-Karatau River upper streams, the expedition makes its way through the small pass of Borodisai, marking the administrative border between the riparian regions. From Jambul region, we continued our journey to South Kazakhstan region and crossed the Karatau Ridge. Whereas just this morning it was still snowing in Joalynsk Valley, here on the southern slopes we see alpine meadows with blossoming crocuses. We are now photographing the Alatau saffron, also known as snowdrop. These small mountains, called Agentau in the Middle Ages, looked like they were created specifically for horse breeding. The Kazakh Khanate combat horses were feeding on exactly these juicy meadows. Many local descendants made a successful military career and became famous Batirs or warriors. Baidibek Karashaoli, in whose honor Baidibek district was named, was one of the most famous Batirs of Karatau area. The first mention of him in academic literature belongs to the great Kazakh ethnographer and publicist Shokan Velikanov. No information about the Batirs' exact dates of birth and death made it to our time, but based on various legends and stories, researchers believe that Baidibek was born in the second half of the 14th century. That was the period when the tribes that later entered the Kazakh Khanate had been formed. A powerful ruler and a talented commander-in-chief, Baidibek can be justly merited for uniting the Kazakh people. Baidibek Ata and Kasana Mausoleums are located in the village of Baidibek. They were built next to the graves of the five great mothers, Mapai, Zarip, Karashash, Zhupar and Silandi. This mausoleum was erected in honor of the renowned Bey Baidibek. He won his glory among people for his justice and accuracy of speech. Baidibek was buried on the bank of the Balabugun River, originating up in the mountains. People say that Baidibek was the owner of such a great number of horses' herds that when coming to the river to drink, they would block its flow. The customs, traditions and beliefs of the Kazakhs always cultivated love and consideration for the nature of the native land. The residents of this arid area treated rivers with special care, as they gave life to everything around. Those were the first instinctive forms of environmentally friendly outlook. Spring floods have flooded the woods along the bank of the Balabagun River. Small mountain rivulets bring their snowmelt waters from the slopes of Karatau to the Sirdarya, feeding the Great River and the Aral Sea. In the form of snow and rain, the water returns to mountain ridges, to expired valleys again and again, bringing life to millions of living creatures. This circle of life has been turning since the beginning of times and should not cease by no means. The risky experiments with water streams of mid-20th century led to severe ecological aftermath. But now, spring tides coming from the Karatau foothills are filling the Aral Sea again. A nightingale has built its nest in the willow branches, at a safe height unattainable to floods. The bird welcomes the rough spring streams with a joyful song. The travelers cover another 3 kilometers up on the way to the Balabagun and set up the camp in a picturesque place near the ancient historical site of Kasana Mausoleum, marked by a majestic monument. The lunch is cooking and the expedition members go out to meet Kumeskul Apa, the hospitable and charming monument keeper. She tells them the fascinating story about one of the wives and a daughter-in-law of Jibek who, as the legend goes, are buried here. In the late 90s, a group of archaeologists from South Kazakhstan Regional Local History Museum excavated the place and found the remains of ancient buildings. It appears that they were built using burnt bricks, the technology of producing which was known already in the 10th century AD. Based on similar orientation of the structure with the Kanaka of Ahmet Yasavi, the scientists made a hypothesis that the monument could have been constructed by one of dervish communities. The Kasana Mausoleum was opened in 2001. Translated from Kazakh, Kasana means two mothers. This is the place where one of the wives and daughter-in-law of Honorable Jibek, the judge of the Kazakh people, are buried. The site, built in honor of these two women, has been known to local residents from ancient times. These burnt bricks were taken from the building of madrasa dating back to the 13th, 14th centuries. The graves themselves are located to the right of the entrance to the site. Not far from the site, there is a healing spring, the water of which, according to the legend, can cure gastric and allergic diseases. Our travelers, although not suffering from these illnesses, decided to use the opportunity and each enjoyed a big cup of soft and crystal clear water. The expedition passes the watershed of two small rivers, the Koksharata and Balabagun, to visit one more historical monument connected with the name of Jibek. As popular stories have it, this is the place where his 6 sons of the senior wife Sarah were killed in a battle. This is why it is called the grave of 6 Sarah's sons. The route of the expedition lies towards the village of Kumkent. To get there, we had to cross the ridge of Karatau and the administrative border between South Kazakhstan and Jambul regions. On the side of the road, we see a huge ship. What is it doing here? And what sailor led his vessel to Kumkent harbor, where river navigation is opened only for the geese?
Когда посередине степного села Кумкент.
When tourists see a huge ship in the middle of the steppe village of Kumkent, they are usually surprised, to say the least, although Lake Kizilkol lies nearby. Until recently, it served as an important navigation artery. On the one hand, by now it lost its significance as a waterway, but on the other hand, is gaining its status of an important ornithological site. Many semi-aquatic birds take their rest here during spring and fall migrations. International environmental organizations have included the lake in the list of key ornithological zones. As a novel type of international tourism, birdwatching is confidently entering the Kazakhstan market, turning Lake Kyzylkoy into a valuable tourist resource and attraction. It is very interesting to travel around Karatau by car, but try doing it on camel-back. Huge and frightening in appearance, our Bactrian turned out to be a peaceful and surprisingly tolerant being. It patiently endured our cavalry experiments, tactfully pretending that it did not notice our scandalous ignorance in the art of riding. By some miracle, the camel intuitively guessed what the rider wanted from it and almost unmistakably executed all the commands given. A small rivulet flows into the lake. About 5 kilometers above its mouth, there is a canyon that proved to be a true open-air paleontological museum. Without any shadow of doubt, every traveler wants to feel him or herself a pioneer and dreams of finding an artifact or at least a souvenir. The members of our expedition could not help the temptation and also decided to try their luck in search of antiquities. About 200 million years ago, the Karatau Ridge represented a series of hills covered with damp rainforest where huge reptiles used to undertake their slow afternoon promenades. Their remains are a frequent find on steep riverbanks. By the end of the Jurassic, the powerful movement of tectonic plates made the life of dinosaurs difficult, to put it mildly, and at the same time divided the ridge into two parts: the smaller Eastern Karatau and the Great or Western Karatau. About 45 million years ago, the mountains were covered by the sea, with only the Kogjot Plateau and a couple of Boral-Daitau summits remaining above the sea level. 25 million years back, the sea receded and left the fossilated remains of sea monsters like sharks, sea hedgehogs and ammonites for us to enjoy today. Having forgotten about breakfast and lunch, the expedition team rushed to the river looking for prehistoric treasures.
Это река Ушбас, вот на этом вот крутом обрыве.
This is the Ushbas River, where people find shark teeth. Let's use this opportunity and try our luck as well. If you look carefully and long enough, you will for sure find some shark teeth. It looks like I found one. Alexander, I found one. Look at it. This is how a shark tooth looks. Malik told us to look closely because they're just sticking out of the rock. Unfortunately, I didn't find any yet. The tooth that we found was not very graphic, but that only urged forward the passion of the seekers. And soon our operator got lucky. He found one more tooth that was big and was in good condition.
Я нашел зуб акулы. Первый раз нашел фрагмент непонятный. Вот это вот.
I found a shark tooth. The first one was in poor condition, but this one is very nice. Judging by these layers here, the riverbank reminds me of a millefeuille cake. During different eras, it was inhabited by different bacteria, hence the different color of soil. I will take this souvenir back home, and maybe it is worth giving it to paleontologists for examination. Maybe they will be able to tell me the species that it belonged to. It's an ideal shape, a full-fledged shark tooth. We will keep the geographical coordinates of this place in secret, because if everyone who comes here will take such a souvenir home, the place will quickly lose its primitive charm.
Это место быстро потеряет свою первозданную прелесть.
Another even more interesting find is awaiting Malik. Looks like a canine of some predator.
Это точно не камень, да?
It is definitely not a stone. It's a canine, a bone,
Кость,
a claw.
коготь.
It is a bone. It's a fossilated bone of some animal.
Это кость. Окаменевшая кость какого-то животного.
About 20 million years ago, after the sea receded and dinosaurs died out, the local climate continued to remain warm and humid. Lakes and river valleys covered with lush woods were occupied by mammals. Huge mastodons, woolly rhinoceroses, cave bears and saber-toothed cats undividedly reigned in these mountains until they were defeated by another mammal species that conceded to them literally in everything except for its ability to analyze the world around. Perhaps in our hands we have a tooth of a terrible predator that could kill a human in one move of its powerful claw. Nonetheless, humans won the evolutionary battle. The most ancient sites of primitive people in Karatau are at least 60,000 years old. Some of them are found directly on the surface. During early Iron Age, humans in Karatau built fortified settlements, developed crafts and trade. By the 10th century AD, kinship unions that later formed the Kazakh ethnos began their formation. Having moved 20 kilometers eastward of Lake Kizilkol, our expedition has simultaneously traveled from the kingdom of scientific hypotheses and paleontological tables to the wonderful world of medieval legends, myths and stories. The mausoleum of Baba Togti Shashti was built of burnt bricks at the end of the 19th century, was partially destroyed in the 20th century and was fully restored just a couple of years ago. Baba Togti is a legendary personality going back to the ancient Turkic epos. He is also known as Saint Auliye, the protector of heroes. During the Islamic period, Baba Togti Shashti Aziz was also considered the saint patron of men of arms. According to one of the legends, he was the son of the epic warrior Anshibai, and according to another, the father of the legendary Yadigar Batir. In Tengris mythology, he was a fairy tale character able to take various shapes and help good people. In the song of Alpamiz Batir, the spirit of Baba Togti came to the warrior in his dreams to render counsel. As a character of numerous national fairy tales, Baba Togti would find a way out of most desperate situations, was the master of creative thinking, demonstrated wit and sense of humor. One of ancient Turkic legends tells the story of Baba Togti pulling a brave young man out of the hands of the death angel itself. When the offended spirit of the night came to Tengri to complain, the god only bursted out laughing and replied that each brave person should have a patron. That was the will of the eternal sky. The mausoleum towers over a small lake also considered sacred. The legend goes that one day angel-like beings called Peri were swimming in the lake, having taken the shape of beautiful young women. Having incidentally seen one of them, Baba Togti lost his head and decided to achieve return of affection by all means. He hid the magic clothes of Peri in reed thickets, without which she lost her magic power and turned into an ordinary woman. After that, she was forced to marry Baba Togti. The lake swarms with Marinka and Schizothorax, which is the only aboriginal fish species of the small rivers of Karatau. Living in arid climate, the Kazakhs always treated water and all water creatures with respect. Therefore, in the majority of Karatau rivers, Marinka populations are still in good shape, although in the Ili-Balkhash basin they have been a rarity for a long time and thus are listed in the Red Book. In the land of Karatau, the ancient history has intertwined with a more recent one. Having descended from the pass, the expedition comes to the mine of Achisai Polymetallic Works, founded in 1927. During the Great Patriotic War, every 10th bullet released to the front line was casted with lead produced here. The gloomy architecture of the military period reminds expedition members of those hard times. Hundreds of kilometers left behind on our journey across Karatau. The next night catches up with the expedition on one of the passes of the main ridge. The northern slopes still gleam white with snow, but the southern ones look like a great place to set up the camp for the night. In the morning, the expedition goes down to the valley, heading to the city of Taug and getting ready to start the next phase of this great trip.